Ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda? Excellent. Our first session of public comments has arrived, and we do not have any audience members today. But we will open it up to the public. If there's something that somebody wishes to speak to and comment to, you are welcome. All right. Let's go on to our final for 2024-25 student representative report. Jaden, take it away.
Thank you very much. So I have a cute little slideshow with a bunch of little pictures, and I just want to talk about how wonderful it has been my senior year and all the experiences that our district has seen and gone through pictures, because I love pictures. So this first slide shows a little bit of athletics, a little bit of fine arts, and a little bit of applied arts. We had so many different activities and sports and things to join. This is something that I come back to almost every single meeting, just how many opportunities we've had and how wonderful it is to find something for everyone and for everyone to be able to forge their own path if it's not already been forged. But this just really encapsulates both creativity as well as willingness to keep pushing yourself forward, which I think is really beautiful. And when people are able to kind of utilize their strengths and their passions, it turns into something so beautiful. And then next we have some larger district type things. We have some students from RMS messing around in the gym. There were a lot of great events at both grade schools. I don't have the most knowledge on that because I'm not in there, but every photo I see, every time I hear a staff member from either of those schools discuss, it is so positive, like the positivity that radiates off of these kids and with these experiences that they've had and that their teachers and administration and other staff members have created for them. It's just wonderful. Like I can see it on their faces. We had some help this year from photographer Ben Conant. He really stepped in and he took beautiful pictures of a lot of our athletics. There's some more later on in the slideshow, but he's a wonderful, wonderful resource and amazing to work with. He took my personal senior photos, incredible photography, and just really nice and down to earth. And then down in the bottom corner there was our first entire Conant Middle High School wide pep rally that we had outdoors down at the track. And it felt so big. It felt so warm and inviting and open. There were a lot of different things to see there. It allowed for a lot more participation, and bringing in those middle schoolers, it really helps lift the high schoolers up a little bit, from like being a little drowsy, being a little zombified to being like, whoa, we can be lively now. They have that young spark in them. It's really nice to see.
That's zombified.
Yes, zombified. That's how I'm feeling. Senior,
All right.
last week,
All right.
senior
Just
year.
wanted to make sure. Got
Yeah, of course.
What are those people?
And then next I included some more artwork. This was posted around Jaffrey community page. This was at a local art show. A few of our high schoolers submitted art regarding the town and the community. This is just one example. I really loved this piece. It was really great. And I remember going with my friends to pick up their little siblings from the library, and they just always seemed so happy to be running around doing whatever. It displays a sense of community when I look at that library. It's so nice. I wasn't here for grade school, so I didn't get to know that part of childhood up here, but seeing it from an outside perspective, it was really enlightening because the sense of community here is so incredible. Speaking of the sense of community, we have my senior class's homecoming float. It was different Pixar movies. We were a Toy Story. It was great. It was lovely. It was one of those things where everybody pitched in, everybody did their part. It was so nice. I'm Rex the dinosaur in the back there. You can't see my face in that, but that's okay. And then down at the bottom, I have some of the people who went on the American Heritage Tour trip. And from all whom I've spoken to about this trip, they have said very many good things about all the things they got to see, all the monuments, all the historical preservations and whatnot, and just the experiences that they had with one another. It's their first big trip, and I didn't get that because it was the time that we don't talk about, but but it's really nice for them to be exposed to that, younger than I will be because I'm not taking mine until this weekend, senior trip. So it's great that they're experiencing that and kind of just familiarizing themselves with independence earlier on than some other people have gotten to, as well as obviously the historical significance and educational benefit to this trip. Next we have a cameo from Mr. Duncan in his Annie wheelchair. And of course, Mrs. Wiley's wonderful daughter and some other familiar faces. I was both in the production and an audience member to all three shows, and both of those experiences were incredible. I got to be in one of the acts and I got to be watching the other one. And let me tell you, my face lit up every single time we went to the cabinet scene. It was one of my favorites. And then we also have our 4-year varsity athlete award recipients. Those are some wonderful individuals who showed incredible, incredible strength, and they just kept going, and it was wonderful.
And they were scholar athletes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had to achieve over a certain GPA. I'm not really quite sure what that was, probably a 3.5 if I had to guess. And then, and then we had our lovely prom king and queen, one of my best friends, Jasmine, and her lovely boyfriend. It was the highlight of the evening. Prom was pretty good. But definitely the friendships that were made there were the best part of it. And then next we have the NHDI performance from JGS. I heard about this for weeks before and after the event. These kids get so excited for this every single year, and I love hearing about it. And that's definitely something I'm going to miss hearing from the grade school children. They get to express themselves, and they get to perform up on a stage, and it's exciting, it's something new, it's something different. And then it's just so incredible, and they get to apply themselves to something, and it's not stuffy, it's new, it's exciting. And then we had some members of the Conant Showcase from the World Languages Department. People brought in foods from different countries of the language that they were learning about, and did entire poster board projects on these, and it was really cool. I got to go to it. I snapped this picture for a school board meeting that I never included it in. Oops. But I figured now is better than never. Excuse me. But yeah, it was a wonderful time, and there's more pictures of the showcase in there. And then there's another snap of the full Annie cast and crew. It's always wonderful to bring in the JGS kids. They similar to the school-wide pep rally, they just bring this light, they bring this energy, and it's always wonderful. And
Who owns the dog?
I think that's Miss Mac's dog. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Music teacher at GGS.
Yeah.
Adorable dog.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Everyone agreed that that dog was the star of the show. Other than Annie, of course, and Mr. Duncan, that dog was the star of the show. And yeah, so it's just so nice to have those kids there and to make an impact and to provide a vision for even just one of them to say, hey, I might want to do this later on. That in and of itself, that's the mission, right? Just trying to inspire whoever you can to find something, you know? And then we have our wonderful Interact group for their Dominican Republic trip. They're wonderful. They've always been wonderful. Their work down there is always astounding. The fact that they sacrifice their entire spring break just to go down there, most of which have done it every single year. It's incredible. Like they inspire me so much. And then we have our sixth graders went on a choir field trip, an elementary choir field trip, which was an exciting opportunity for them. It was big, it was formal. It was a great experience for them to know how to be professional about something that they might want to do later on in life. We have some, I believe, JGS kids who went to a baseball game. They look like they're having fun. I swiped this off the internet.
It's fifth grade.
Fifth grade, yeah.
That's great.
Look at
Field
that.
trip.
Wow.
Look at
Voice.
that. No, I didn't. But anyways, it's so wonderful to be so in touch with your community. And the fact that we're able to provide that opportunity for a lot of different people is really, really nice, especially when there's nice weather every once in a while. And then next we have a fundraiser for my senior class. It was paint night. There were a few people in attendance. They're sitting at this table.
Some of us learned we weren't art.
It's all right. It was a wonderful night. The leadership was really nice. The environment was beautiful. It was simple yet classy, you know. It was just a quiet evening where you could just really get into the painting. And you didn't have to be good at it, you just had to have a good time. And then we have another part of the Conant Showcase. This was the STEM area. I took a picture of this orb because I thought it was cool. I know what it does, but I forgot what it does, but it looks really cool. And then we have a professional photo taken, I believe by Ben Conant again, of our girls soccer team. I went to a lot of their games and their bond with each other. A lot of the sports teams here have really, really great bonds with each other. Like they all feel like families with one another, which is really, really nice to have. You know, you don't have athletes fighting one another. You don't have all this drama. You just have a family and it's beautiful. There's me.
Sure enough.
It was just so exciting to be able to
The real superintendent, and then there's me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just so exciting to have this opportunity this year. I'm gonna get more into that when the slideshow's over.
Sorry.
We
That's all we need. So
had an RMS hiking trip, which was another wonderful opportunity to not only kind of break the cycle, you know, try to mix things up a little bit, but it's a wonderful way to exercise and get your body moving and learn about the just kind of how the world is in our community, because we have such a like within nature, we have such wonderful opportunities up here. Like I used to live in Indiana. It was cornfield, then a cornfield, then a cornfield. And up here it's, whoa, there's a mountain over there. Whoa, there's a river over there. Whoa, there's this. Whoa, there's that. And it's so wonderful. And we need to take those opportunities more often, I think, because the product of that is a bunch of people who are getting to know nature and the community around them, and it's really gorgeous to think about.
I think that's the JGS hiking club.
Oh.
Oh, RMS.
Oops. Anyways,
It's all good.
yeah, I'm embarrassed. It's okay. We have some cakes from the cake decorating competition. I don't believe I snapped the winning one. I apologize, Mr. Ratcliffe. But it's wonderful to see the creativity coming out of everyone involved. You can see they were all given the instruction to bake a cake and decorate it, but all these creative liberties they're taking are all their own. And not to mention the structural integrity needed for some of these, like some of them are very elaborate. But it was just a really good experience to see. And then of course I couldn't not include the Little Oriole Center. We go on little walking field trips around the building sometimes when it's raining outside or when we can't do something else. And I think that it's really important to show these young children what their future might be, whether it be here or somewhere else, getting familiarized with an environment that they will eventually be placed into. And getting them excited about it. They look at the artwork on the walls, they meet the teachers that aren't their parents, and they get to know what their opportunities can be later on. And they might not remember everything. They won't, honestly, they won't remember anything, but they'll feel it, and that feeling sticks. And then I have some more sports because the sports pictures, again, are just incredible. We had a lot of athletics this year, as you guys all know. It was wonderful to see everyone come together every single sports season. And then we also have the NHS board from this past year, which I am on, but that's okay. That's why I have the picture. But yeah, and this top left one right here, that was the girls soccer senior night with all the team and all the families that came to celebrate their senior athletes. And this happens for every sport. This happens every year. And the amount that that these athletes' families support them is incredible. It's very encouraging. And those who might not have as many family members always have friends in their corner, cheering them on along the way. It's such a beautiful, beautiful family moment, whether it be literal family or the people you've come to know here. It's something that I can't really put into words. I'm repeating all my words and I don't know how to phrase it perfectly. And then here, the last slide is just some more moments that are stuck in my head all the time. Obviously this award that we received has I think changed us for the better. I remember preparing to have the people come here and I was so nervous, even though I had no idea what it was about. But finally getting to that moment, I was like, whoa, we did this. And it was remarkable. And something to be really proud of. And then we had our annual Hoops for Hope, the fundraiser / basketball game. This is always so fun and always it's everyone coming together. And that's something that you can't replace and you can't find it everywhere. And it's something that we do the best. We do it the best. I mean, we might not have the most money. We might not have everything perfect. We might not have enough subs for the day, but we do have this and we will always have this. And then we have our wonderful student section for, I believe, USA Day, because Mr. Blanchett is holding a flag there. But yeah, I think the main point of this whole thing is that this will not be able to be replicated. Like this feeling that this school and this district brings to me, I don't think I'll ever be able to find it again because it is so communal and it is so beautiful. It's by no means perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, but it is so beautiful and irreplaceable. And that's what I have.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the energy and the drive that you're putting forward to this. To really, I mean, in my memory, I don't remember a student representative being able to bring so much of the district to us. It's really phenomenal.
Thank you very
Really,
much.
really grateful for your time with us.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question or?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. No, I just like to say, something you mentioned a couple times about how, the elementary school kids like brought energy to the middle and high school kids, and the middle school kids bring energy to the high school kids. I definitely see like your role in this board is kind of being similar. It's just interesting that you mentioned that, right? I think we, can get a little zombified to our own work sometimes, so I do appreciate your positivity and your energy, and I think it's important. I think it's important that, people that do feel positively about the school, like, get out there and say so, and are proud of it, and you recognize it's not perfect, right? We know that, nothing is, but it's certainly, the district has a lot going for it, and it lies in, a lot of the things you touched on, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
getting out there and saying that, because, I wish more people would. I know that many people feel the same way, and I appreciate you kind of
Yeah. I mean,
recognizing that.
I noticed repeatedly throughout this past budget season, as big as it may have been, something that most staff members and most administrators always came back to was just the feeling that this district brings and how it's unable to be replicated. That was something that stuck with me throughout that entire process, was that I'm not the only one that sees it. I'm not the only one that feels it. So if anyone feels like they're the only one that feels it, you're not.
And I think that's what's difficult, is that's tough to quantify, on a
Yeah.
spreadsheet or a report or something like that, so. Again, I appreciate you speaking up.
Yeah, I mean, it gets gloomy when you only look at numbers. And it's unfortunate that so much of what you guys have to face is numerical, So I hope that I have been able to kind of alleviate just like a little bit of stress off you guys by bringing in some other things that aren't on a spreadsheet, because as important as those spreadsheet items are and all the rules are, it's also important to recognize what we've been able to accomplish as learners, as staff members, as administration, as volunteers. I have had a very individual experience here. It's not you're in the system and you just go and everybody has the same process. I can confidently say that I have had an experience here that no one else has had. And I truly believe that all of my peers can say the same thing.
Way to put it. Look at you with your words.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you. Best of luck to you, and looking forward to seeing you at graduation when it is, right?
Thank you. And if you're ever at Keene State, I'll be there.
Definitely come back here.
Yeah.
Please. Let us know how you're doing. Especially because you're going into education. It'd be really nice to kind of see what happens next. Like what's coming down the pipe on your end, what you're seeing. Thank you guys. Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
So I'll follow that up with doom and gloom and numbers. All right.
Nothing less. No, yay. No, I'll keep it relatively brief because I know our next presentation, having gone through it already, with Jen, is gonna take our attention. And certainly could be, a topic for what I have to talk about as well. And so just, a couple things, if we go back to, Jaden's presentation right here. And I know that it's later on in the agenda to talk about what was brought up last board meeting about advertisement, basically, of the successes that we've had and so forth. This summer, we'll be working, a few of us will be working to start developing brochures, other forms of publicity to publicize and promote our district as we go forward. I think it's going to be important. I think that if we read the tea leaves correctly with the legislature that is going on right now, that whether it's this year or the following year, I think you're going to see some universal choice within public education come to be, and it's going to be important that we position ourselves in the area for that. That can be a huge loss or benefit depending on how we handle this within the community, and it could be a very good thing. We have a lot, as Jaden alluded to, we have a lot to offer. We do have an impressive culture. It doesn't, my words don't go as far as what Jaden actually described. We know that to be true. We, our school district has been working for years to have a good retention of staff. Now, we still have to hire certain positions that are harder to hire, but this year is probably the year of the, oddly enough, the best of the retention of staff that we've ever had. Certainly, it could have gone in a different way, and I don't want to use the word family because I think sometimes family can be a little dysfunctional. You know, everyone, families are different all over the place, but we do have a beautiful collaborative culture that people know that they are cared for. And so culture is the foundation to all future improvement. And we're well on our way to just continuous improvement, which is really great. So we'll be working on that. Again, some of the items that are in the legislature that are likely to, or that are getting a lot of attention, but are likely to, we're going to be talking about during budget season is either how we're going to prepare for the inevitable universal choice, or depending on whether something goes through or not this year, and depending what the language is on it. But most certainly, we're going to be having more conversations about universal vouchers. I can't imagine New Hampshire not moving toward that direction. It seems to be what the governor wants to do and where the legislature is pushing. It's depending on your views of choice and education and privatization and so forth. It could be a really positive thing, or it could be, it will be there's no chance, at least in the short term, unless if some other things get put into place, it will be an economic drain on the state of New Hampshire and to the local taxpayers. There's no way around that. No one has been able to show extra revenue sources for another $100 million, even though that's the high of what they're estimating, but they're budgeting 32 more million is what is currently in there. But that's the direction things are going. And so we have to look at how we are positioned to be able to take advantage of whatever comes our way and to make sure that we continue our forward progress. With that, we have challenges, and we've had some as many wins as we've had. We've been working hard in a lot of these areas to get to the point where we've had some really high moments this year. We also have had our struggles. And so we will continue to work planning and making sure that we are ready to go to finish off this year strongly and make sure that we're going strong for the year to come. So right now, we're already in kind of making sure, like my focus right now is making sure that we're fiscally ending the year in a good spot. We've obviously have had some adjustments with the facilities, and so we're getting that into a different rhythm. Some of that's been challenging, some of it's been eye-opening and very good. And we've been having a very good hiring month for custodians. We need a lot of them right now, and we have like a record number of people applying all of a sudden to actually several of our positions we've been able to fill perhaps easier than we have in the last several years, which is nice. We do know that we will likely have an opening in our CTE area, and so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to work with that, but we have a little bit of time. And then I think special education, we have some challenges regarding the number of certified staff. And that's annually, and that's most places, especially in this region of the state. So I know that that's not the perfect segue to Jen, because I think there's a lot of positive that Jen has to say, but I imagine that you'll talk about that piece just a little bit. And I'll leave it at that.
Questions for Ruben?
Can you explain about truant officers? Because I know I was really confused by it last week and that, perpetuated something. Do school districts usually have a full-time truant officer?
Sometimes a half-time, sometimes a full-time. It all depends on the district and what the district's needs are. Sometimes it is, like, for instance, I think Keene at one point hired a retired police officer. And maybe they still use that model. I'm not entirely sure. Sometimes it's within the scope of the school's work. The truant office, it's the reason, the importance of truant officers, you do have to have one legally. You have to have someone that is, designated as that. Those individuals are certainly dealing with a lot of the nuts and bolts of truancy, but also with the authority and need to often make visits as well. And so with several positions, and that's one side of things, and it often dovetails with the other one, McKinney-Vento, which is homelessness. And in our region, that has increased. I think it's the highest it's been in the 10 years I've been here, and it's not close. And the rules and regulations around what has to be done have also changed. We had to have a lot of training for some of our people to be able to do that. And those individuals may have to make visits as well, go places, late at night, get groceries, get clothing, whatever for people. And there are a lot of rules and regulations. Transportation gets involved in that as well, and we end up paying a fair amount with transportation. I signed 3 documents last week relative to sharing transportation with other districts. The good news is most of those learners are coming to school, and I think we have several that are in other districts that are coming our way. So they get that choice to go to whatever school in New Hampshire that they would like to, but their place of residence, usually we've had some difficulty with some schools sharing the cost, but usually it's a given that you're going to split, because in the end it all washes out. So truancy.
I would say
You want to
that
add?
there are a lot of rules and regulations for both truancy and McKinney-Vento, and they're all put in place to support and care for the students involved. So making sure that they have everything they possibly can for them to succeed. The onus then and the cost of that then goes on to the school district to provide those things, and it can be very costly, but they're all in place to protect our kids. We have a lot. A truant officer, I also would say, doesn't have to be a police officer, although a police officer can be a truant officer. But it also can be somebody within the district. But the rules also within New Hampshire on truancy, it used to be you got to a certain place and then you would call the Department of Health and Human Services or DCYF and say, we have this truance issue. They won't touch it until somebody has gone to the home. And for me to go to someone's home is not necessarily a safe option, as opposed to then having an officer involved. So there's a lot of you do, and who does to make sure that we can protect kids. And I think that you just need to be aware of that the rules are the kid has to go to school, but we can't do anything about it unless we've gone to their house and proven that they're not coming to school. It's a difficult system to play in.
Thank you. I had absolutely no idea. I thought it was like kids skipping school or something. That's awful. So,
Well,
Can be, it runs the gambit. But we have, I mean, we can't talk a lot about, we can't give any specifics, but we certainly through the truancy processes, well, COVID especially, I remember a couple big ones, have been able to locate kids in very unsafe circumstances and have been able to actually save them from very difficult circumstances as a result of our follow-up with them. When they're in some of those cases, those kids were actually well out of our town area, and we did have to actually get other towns police involved, and that takes a lot of time, and then follow through and by sticking with it, we were able to help out some younger children, which was good. Very concerned about some things that take place.
So we want to go over to Dr. Jennifer Horn. We've asked different people to come to our sessions to talk about features of our education and all these different pieces that have to work together. And oftentimes we don't hear from a lot of these aspects until it's actually budget season. And then it's these long, massive sessions where it's much more focused on finance. And so although we definitely will be touching on finance and all of these, really this is, what we're doing is inviting people to come in, specialists in their field, to come and say, this is how this system works. And this is what it's doing and year in review. So tonight we have Dr. Jennifer Horn, and congratulations on your new title.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the most fun when my children call me Dr. Mom, but that's fun here too.
Jen is our Director of Special Education, Special Ed Services. And so you ready?
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
So tonight I'm going to do kind of a general overview of what special education is. We'll talk a little bit about our current programming, what we have going on within our district, some funding pieces, not deep, but overviews of what it means and how it works, and then some looking ahead pieces. So the first slide here is what is the general overview of special education. Students ages 3 to 22 inclusive qualify for special education. What that means is at about 2.5, the school district is notified of students that early supports and services are working with out in our community, that they have a student that might qualify for special ed. We have to have them in place and identified by their 3rd birthday. And students can stay with us through our school district funding until they're the day before their 22nd birthday. So any funding for somebody who needs additional supports and services for between the ages of 3 and 22 falls within your school district. Adult services picks up on their 22nd birthday, and early supports and services is from 0 to 3. Everything else is us. All of the educational pieces. And educational pieces can be broad. Anything needed to access an education, physical therapy, speech, occupational therapy, and then educational pieces. Another piece that people should be mindful of is that school districts are required to find and seek students who may have a disability. So from 0 to 3 and 22 on, it's up to parents and people with disabilities to go seek their own supports. But from ages 3 to 22, we are required to put information out there and say, here we are, come to us. Let us find out if we need to help you. That's a very big difference in public funding, all other public funding you have to go find. In the school district, you are entitled to it and we have to find you. To be eligible for special education, you have to meet the guidelines of an educational disability, that the guideline book is big. And you also have to require specially designed instruction. And I'll give you an example of that. You may meet the educational disability guidelines of a student with autism. You may have a medical diagnosis of autism, but you do not need any specially designed instruction. You may need to have extra time or extra access to something, but you don't need specially designed instruction. You don't qualify for special education. So there's nothing that just is a for sure, but there's also nothing that's an absolute not. And all of those decisions are made in a team. So anytime a student comes forward and we look at possible eligibility, there's a group of people that make that decision together. Anybody have, please stop me if you have any questions. I wanted to give you a really quick overview of what that looks like then. So a student is referred. Anyone can make a referral to special education, a parent, a teacher. We've got doctors that make recommendations or referrals. Upon us receiving a referral, we have 15 days, and those are 15 business days to have a meeting. So it's very close, very fast timeline to come together and say, what is the referral? What is the concern? And what do we want to do with it? If a referral can go one of two ways, we can move towards evaluation, or we can do what we call dispose of the referral and say, we're going to do something else instead. We don't feel like we need to move forward with evaluations at this time. If we move forward with evaluations, we have 60 calendar days to complete an evaluation. This is another interesting thing. If I wanted to take my own child and have a neuro evaluation done at Dartmouth, I could wait 6 months to 2 years to get an evaluation, even if my doctor refers me for it. If my doctor refers me to the school district, I have 60 days to complete the evaluation. There's no extra, you don't get extra time on initial, you have 60 days. If after the evaluation, the student is found eligible and requires specially designed instruction, then we create an IEP and start providing those services. And then we review those every year. For individual education program. It is not a plan, it is a program. I like what Jaden said, that she feels like her educational experience was individualized. An IEP is an individualized program as well, based on supports and needs that a student may have. Yep.
Yeah, just curious, this is one part of the process. What happens if a student moves into district with an existing IEP? Do you take that and it just becomes part of the yearly review process, essentially?
Totally
Or is it
depends.
sort of-
Did they move from New Hampshire? Then yes, we accept it. If they move from somewhere else, then we have to go through the referral process to determine if they meet all the requirements. So that there's a federal law and then there's state law, and our state law supersedes the federal law in some places. So we require, for instance, an autism diagnosis requires an adaptive test, and Massachusetts requires a medical diagnosis. So if they come from Massachusetts, we have to do additional testing before we can deem them eligible for special education.
And it is part of the evaluation process, I guess. It sounds like there's a lot of testing and it's kind of like quantitative data, right? So it's not like, I guess in my mind, I'm looking for you to explain to me as part of that evaluation. It says here there's a lot of people involved, but how much of it is like a standardized, like, here's the evaluation for this versus, I'll say an opinion, a subjective opinion. I know it's
So-
a broad question, but
There's standardized tests that have to be done, but you also can, so there has to be an academic assessment. But you also could take Ames Web scores as your academic assessment. You don't have to use the Wyatt, which is what we typically use here. If you're looking at specific learning disability, it requires a classroom observation. And so somebody has to go and observe what's going on in the classroom. That's part of the evaluative process. But even through all of that, we can do all of the testing and sit in a meeting and say, the test showed this, but what the student's doing in the classroom shows this. And so those pieces together, do they require specially designed instruction or not? And sometimes the testing is a little bit low, but the student has really worked very hard and has overcome issues, and so they don't need anything. And other times the testing's high, but the output, not so much. And so there's a disconnect. It's always a team decision. So there's very quantitative results, but there's also qualitative input to determine whether or not a student is eligible. Yes,
So do you do the testing yourself? Is that how you get it done faster than if they had to go to Dartmouth?
yes. So we have a school psychologist that does our neuro testing, so our cognitive testing and our adaptive testing and other health impairment. So rating scale, social emotional pieces. We have a certified educator who does our academic testing. And then Storm, Tricia, and I also do some of our academic testing because there's too much for one person to do. And then we have speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and a physical therapist that do their testing. Of those, one speech pathologist, the school psychologist, and the physical therapist are all contracted services. So we need them to follow this process. We can't hire them in our area, so we have to hire them contracted, which is a cost. All right. The next section is a little bit about what we currently have here. How are we meeting student needs? This is a fun slide, but a little bit difficult to read maybe. We have special ed preschool, which are 50-50. So we have preschools in both buildings, but the special education preschool are 50% identified students, 50% non-identified students. Both of those classrooms are currently housed at Ridge. We have two of them. They're kiddos those are the kids that come in at age 3, their 3rd birthday, and then they can stay through 5, or often now we're able to put them in the 4-year-old full day programs. We do not have one of those at Jaffrey Grade School right now because we moved them both to be in the same location. Self-contained cognitive programs. We have one at Renge, one at the middle school, and one at the high school. We call those our intensive learning centers. Self-contained social emotional program. We currently have 1 or 2 at Jaffrey Grade School. And what I put on here is next year, not this one coming up, but the following year, we may need to be looking at the same kind of program at the middle school. So as our kiddos are growing and getting older, what are we going to need when they get to middle school age? Resource rooms, so ours resource rooms, the behavior support piece, we have one of those at all 4 schools. And our resource rooms are academic support. There's one of those in all 4 schools. Actually, there's many of those. They're by grade bands. There's 3 at both of the elementary schools of academic support. And then there's a 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And in theory, there are 2 at the high school. You know, should we be staffed?
Yeah, I know there's 17 pages, so at any point we're asking a question. If you feel like you're going to be answering that later, please let us know.
Okay.
And don't let us, like, you cut us off, okay? Because you're running the show. But are you going to talk a little bit more about the social emotional program that's pretty new at Jaffrey Grade School that you're thinking might, be able to move into the middle school later? Or can you do a
Maybe.
little delving into that?
Maybe minutely. So we have 2 programs at the elementary school. We've got 7 learners currently within those 2 programs. They're doing really, really well. And of those 7, truly 5 of them at least would need to be out of district placed if we did not have this program for them. Our hope is that we support students early and that they're able to then access the regular classroom as they get older. However, there is a likelihood that not all 7 of them, by the time they get to 6th grade, are ready to go into 6th grade. So what do we do then? Do we then do we out of district, or do we build another program to continue to support in the best way that we can and keep kids part of our community?
The nice thing is I get to spend a little bit of time over at the school, and I went there today and spent some time with all of the individuals in both groups doing an activity. And they because they are at our local school in their community, they are able to already participate with their peers when appropriate. So recess, over there playing chess with a bunch of them last week, I think it was, maybe it was the week before. And one of them was able to go out by himself at recess time and walk there and then walk back to the class all by himself. Like that was a big deal. That didn't happen all year. So that's a significant win. So able to do things like that maybe that doesn't sound very significant for you or myself, you know, getting from one location to another and making sure that you're doing the right thing along the way and getting to where you need to be to take and then be able to get into your next rhythm. So yeah, they're often with their peers and they're with their peers at times that they can be successful, which is important for how they are viewed by their peers all the way through and into adulthood if they are to stay in this area. That matters.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The next two slides are kind of the same information in two different formats. We have a system called Nessus. It's where we put all of our IEPs and it gives us data very quickly. On the right is a listing of all of the different identifications that a student can have to meet the eligibility criteria for special education. And then on the left is a picture of the students that we have and what they fit most in. So you'll see that we have the most in SLD, which is specific learning disability. The second greatest is OHI, which is other health impairment. Other health impairment is ADHD, anxiety, depression, all of a medical diagnosis that is causing a barrier to education. The next slide just gives you the same thing in a pie graph. So you can choose which one is easier for you to see and how that works. But generally, we have students in a variety of different categories. We don't have anybody right now with a traumatic brain injury, but we do have people in all other of these 13 areas within our that live within our district. Some of them don't go to school here, where we don't have a great blind or visually impaired program here. So if you have a student that's blind, we need to send them somewhere else where they can learn Braille. The same with a hearing impairment. If we have someone who is deaf, we need to send them somewhere where they sign. And one student in a space of sign language is not the best possible education for them. Do I have any questions on this piece, Chris?
Yeah, just numbers wise, right? I see that one of them is like multiple disabilities. So I guess I'm trying to like characterize like how many students in our district we serve. I know that. Does this meaning to say, if I back up, whatever the total number is, that there are?
I think we have about 248 right now as of
So
last
that's
week.
what that means, like 248 students being served, and then
Each of them has one of,
so this doesn't like double count. There's not someone with like, say, a developmental delay and emotional disability. Those would be under multiple disabilities. Is that what you're saying?
so multiple disabilities requires you to have concomitant disabilities. They're significant and you can't tell one from the other that's causing the disability. So you can't have a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary disability. I believe these are all primary disabilities, but as I count them, is that about 250? It looks like.
Yeah. it is.
So this is probably just the primary disability area. To be multiply disabled, you would need to have something like an intellectual disability, a significant health disability, and potentially a communication disability. And those three are all so substantial that would consider you multiply disabled, which is why we have very few in that category.
So it's accurate to say that we serve that 250-ish number. Okay.
Mhm.
But not all 250 attend our school district.
Right. We provide the services for them or pay for the services for them, but they're not all in our schools.
Right.
So that gives you that's the next slide then.
Yep.
We have about 248 students, and this is truly me pulling up Nessus and that's what the number is. So there may be some in there that we need to clean up our system, but we're about that. And that's pretty similar. We're between 220 and 250 all the time. It fluctuates all of the time. Of those, we have 20 that are charter school students and 21 that are out of district placed. Charter school students are placed by parents. That's a choice of theirs. Out of district is that team decision saying, we can't meet their needs here.
So you said that the number is kind of usually about the same, is that, has this number been steady? Like what's been the trend, I guess? I don't know if we get into that or you have that data, but.
Overall, and I do this during budget season, generally our trend of identified students is pretty similar, 220 to 250, and that ebbs and flows as kids move in and move out. The charter school trend is increasing and the out of district trend is increasing. So I think when I started, we were at 14 to 16 out of district students, and now we're at 21. Again, keeping in mind that sometimes we have kiddos who are severely and significantly disabled at 3, and we out of district place them, and they will be out of district placed until they are 22. And at 22, kids age out. We will have students age out this year at that 22 end that will substantially offset our costs.
Yeah, so the number's not likely to fluctuate that much unless you identify a whole bunch at the beginning of the process, you lose a bunch at the end, or there's
Yeah.
some sort of influx or
The-
people into the district, right? So
I think that the thing that we need to be mindful of is what Ruben was talking about, the EFAs and the school choice, the universal choice, what impact that can have on us as a district. There are some unforeseens. So what is my next slide? Let me see what I'm talking about next. Let's go to the next one. At some point, I'm going to get more into the impact of some of those.
So what I understand from the statement is that the percentage of students with IEPs is increasing.
To some degree, it ebbs and flows. It's pretty,
I shouldn't say. Yes, it's increasing.
it ebbs and flows. So it depends, but
Well,
we're
if
real.
your enrollment's going down and your total IEPs are steady between 220 and 248, that means that your percentage of students with IEPs has to be going up. So
We're-
there's something causing it.
We're between 19 and 22% of our population typically.
Yeah, I think that, it again, depends on how you look at it. When you throw in like 20 at a charter school, those are 20 kids that aren't coming our way, but they're in our total 248 numbers. So it depends.
And there are kids that get identified in charter schools
Yeah,
who we would not identify, or students like there's the charter school does not teach these things that we teach. So then when we then evaluate them, they haven't been exposed to any of that. So there's a big gap because that's not part of their pedagogy, but then they qualify for special education. So if you are a school that doesn't do phonics and reading until grade 3, which is a philosophy about education, and that's not a bad philosophy, but then you worry about a student in 2nd grade because they're not reading, but they haven't been exposed to phonics as we would expose them. When we do the testing, there's going to be a deficit, and then they will be found eligible.
so if you go to a charter school, that's more like a Waldorf
Mhm.
approach then, which wouldn't deal with phonics at all, for a good deal of time,
I wanted to talk a little bit about the referrals so that you are kind of aware where things are. In preschool this year, we had 16 learners referred. So that's 0 to 3-year-olds. 13 of those moved on to evaluation. It's a pretty high ratio. And 13 of those were found eligible. So all of them that we evaluated at the 3-year-old level were found to have delays in something and then eligible. I will say there are times for preschool that we get them in, we get them services early. By kindergarten, 1st grade, they're discharged. They've made up that delay. And then there are times they're not. In K to 12, So that's kindergarten through age 22. We discharged 12 students this year. We had 69 students referred. 25 of those were evaluated or we did screenings on, and 14 were found eligible. So that ratio is quite a lot different. You can see that we meet a lot. We talk about a lot of things. We put a lot of things in place. 14 new eligibilities. 5 of those evals were homeschool or private school. So they're not even charter school students. Anybody that homeschools goes to private school, they can call and say, I'm worried about my kid, and they can come right in and ask for a referral and evaluations, and we provide those. 8 of those were charter schools. So charter schools then referred and said, this student isn't doing as well as we want them to, or we would expect them to. And that led to 8 evaluations. So of the 25, 13 were charter school and homeschool. Each of those evaluations costs our district $2,500 to $4,000, depending on what evaluations we do and how long the meetings are. So that's just taking the hourly wages of the people who do the evaluations and the meeting times. None of those are we getting per pupil cost money back. Are we getting, we're not receiving anything out. That is 100% out the door money.
If, I'm assuming if you're doing an eval and services are required, then we need to provide the services if that's determined, even for.
Not for homeschool and private school, no,
Nothing. Why would we do an eval?
because it's their right. You have a right to say, I'm concerned about my student. We sit, we talk about it. We say, we can see where there's some concerns. They have a right to an evaluation.
So it ends at the evaluation, there's a determination, and then.
If we found them eligible, we could in theory write an IEP and hand it to them and propose a placement, and they could like here, and then they could refuse the placement and they would have the document with forth that said, this is what my kid would get if they went to school.
Part of the idea is you're giving them all the information possible to make whatever their next educational decision is. Yeah.
Right.
And then the charter school piece is, yes, if we find them eligible and they need services, then we figure out how those get provided or paid for.
Maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of it, but in the draft legislation for the universal school choice, is it likely that the home district would still be responsible for special education costs? I'm assuming yes.
I have heard nothing to the contrary. I don't think there's any other state in the nation that does that. That the home sending district is in charge of all of those costs, but I've heard nothing.
Yeah, that was
Here.
my assumption, just knowing that, reading what I've read and just knowing about how it's been done in the past. All right, thanks.
The next 2 slides, I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of what case management looks like. So where these students kind of fall and who's supporting them. So keeping in mind at elementary, you have 2 K-5 classrooms. So like if you move over to the ILC one, the K1 has 22 kids, 9 of those are JGS, 9 of them are RMS, and 4 of them are charter or out of district students. The behavior support rooms, there's one at RMS and one at JGS, but there are no students on the caseload at our JGS right now. They're all just the RMS kiddos. RC stands for the restorative classroom. Those are our 2 social emotional classes at Jaffrey Grade School. The ILC at RMS is about 12 students broken between 2 case managers. The restorative classroom and the ILC are students that both live in Jaffrey and Ringe. So just because it's housed at Ringe doesn't mean they're just Ringe students or Jaffrey students. Both programs take students from both towns into the program if they fit the program. And then from there, it kind of gives you a breakdown of where our students are. You can see at 4th and 5th grade, we definitely have higher numbers than at other grades. The next one is the same kind of thing at the middle high school. At the middle high school, we have 14 kids from 6 to 12 in our intensive needs program. And then by grade level, our grades, our case management is about the same. You can also see that there's higher numbers of out-of-district placements in different grade levels, which is an interesting thing. If it doesn't say CS, which is charter school behind it, that means that they're just out-of-district placed. Otherwise, there's some that are out-of-district and some that are charter school. If you take all of our case managers and those that we should have, and all of our students, we average about 11 kids per case manager. But really what we have is 19 here, 2 here, 7 here, depending on the program they're in. Any questions on that? The next piece I wanted to talk to you guys about is just so that you know some things that are coming up in the next year. The first one is compliance monitoring. We have, there are 14 indicators in special education, and some of them might not be just special education indicators, that are monitored by the Department of Education, and you have to have particular outcomes in each one. And if you don't, then you fall under a monitoring needs improvement kind of status. Special education in our district is under a compliance monitoring for this upcoming school year for a couple of things. One, because of our ed environments, our out-of-district placement numbers, as well as our preschool outcomes. We also had some difficulty with assessment participation and gap proficiencies, which is the difference between students who are identified and students who are not meeting the same proficiencies on state testing. So what this means is that we will require a team of staff to develop plans and improvement over the summer and throughout the school year, working on how can we address these issues. The preschool outcomes ones is frustrating to me, because if you have a whole bunch of kids in preschool that are slightly delayed, they make their outcomes, and you have a whole bunch of kids in preschool that are significantly disabled, you will never make the outcomes that you want, and it just is what it is. So that one is what it is. The other pieces are things that we can look at and see what we can do differently and how we can do better. Another thing that we're the DOE is looking at us for is program approval and general supervision. So every 7 years or so, they indicate that they review school districts. In the 7 years I have been here, we've never had a program approval. So it is definitely our turn. But what that means is that starting August 8th, the DOE will come into our district and do file reviews. They will do in-person observations of every single special ed program we have. They will make sure that all of our teachers are certified or have the correct statement of eligibilities, that we're doing all of the things that we're supposed to, that our paperwork is following processes. Again, because of that first one of compliance monitoring, we then have to have more files reviewed for them to really check and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to, which was going to require training for all of our special ed staff and in the fall. So there are additional pieces that we're learning that as a district, we're going to need to do that we haven't done in the past, additional data that our special education teachers are going to need to do that we have not done, that is going to be a lift and a time constraint that we will train and figure out how we're going to do and do the best that we can. Medicaid update, we are going to move systems. We've used a system called Easy Medicaid. We are going to move to Relay. This is going to require training for all of our special education staff in the fall. And the last thing I wanted to put on this one, with the reduction of the budget, we lost our out-of-district coordinator and one of our middle high school special ed teachers. We currently have 1.25 open teacher positions at the high school that we've not been able to fill, and 2 fringe positions in the intensive learning center that are open still. They were open this whole year, and we had one of our admin, Storm Metters, cover half of it, and one of our teachers did K1 and ILC as a dual model this year in order to cover those positions. The intensive learning center are students with intensive needs, many of them self-contained. If we do not have positions staffed for these positions, they're not students that can just be in a classroom all day without a lot of support. And there will be more students that we would then look for other placements for. So we're really, really trying to figure out how to fill those positions. And then I have at least 7 paraprofessional positions are still open. And I've, in the last, well, I guess in today I received 2 resignations for current paras. So you can make that 9. I also will tell you, in my opinion, that part of our compliance monitoring concerns are because we have, as an admin staff, done the duty of more than one person for a long time. And therefore, pieces that are unimportant right now become important. And now we're in compliance monitoring. Students all got, and that is my philosophy is students first. Students are getting what they need. But we cannot cross every T all of the time when we are providing the student services. And then we get into some compliance monitoring pieces.
How long will we be in this compliance monitoring?
I think it depends on how well we do. And if we can bring things up. We have this compliance monitoring that also dovetails into a compliance monitoring piece with Jaffrey Grade School. Because they are a Title I school, right? Is it because they're a Title I school that we're being monitored on that? Or is it just because of their scores? I think it's because they're a Title I.
I think their target, yeah, because of a Title I classification, yeah.
So over the last 6 years, they have had a disparity between special education students and regular education students to such a degree that if we do not fix that gap, that we will be in substantial compliance monitoring for that group as well, right? We do have.
That said, last year
we did make a gain, and so if we make a gain again this year, then we.
In Ashley's first year, we're able to make, they
Mhm.
made adjustments, and yeah. So we'll have to see how this year goes, and then we still have another opportunity for the following year. We need 2 of those years.
Yep.
Yeah. And that type of thing goes back to No Child Left Behind, back to the early 2000s, that concept of gap.
The next piece is a little bit about money. So the first 2, Medicaid and Sped Aid, are revenues, and then tuition, charter schools, and transportation are just flat out costs. So just an overview of what these revenues are. So the next one, Ruben. Medicaid reimbursement happens when a student is Medicaid eligible. So first they have to be signed up through Medicaid. And I don't know if any of you have ever done that, but that's a full-time job on its own. If a student has an IEP and they're Medicaid eligible, we can seek reimbursement at a very low rate for any medically necessary services. Medically necessary has to be physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech services, nursing, if it's in the IEP, transportation on the days that they received those services, and para support to carry over those services. So it's a whole lot of really intricate, how do you get money back? And we work really hard in our district to get money back and budget for about $150,000 a year, which we consistently make real close to that. We are able to bring back. Our surrounding districts don't get anywhere near that much. And that's a testament to the insane amount of work that goes in to finding kids eligible, putting all of the information in the system. Our paras putting all of their time and effort into the system, our PT, OT, and speech people putting all of their stuff into the system. It's a lot of work. But we are able to offset our budget a little bit by $150,000-ish by doing that work. Sped Aid, and this is something that came up a lot during our budget conversations, is very confusing. So let me see if I can, and please ask me questions after. Before you can get any special ed aid back, you first have to spend 3.5 times the per pupil cost. So this year, that's $73,319. You have to spend that first. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I get. My understanding, right, is but before that, we get the 4,100, is that true? Like for those 248 students, no matter what, we get $4,182.
Yeah, we get the per pupil cost,
Per pupil,
right?
$4,082, yeah, plus the per pupil cost, I guess, right?
I think so.
Specifically for special ed, right? So that's.
Ruben,
like
is that,
the
I don't
base.
know actually that piece.
Well, I think you get the $4,000+ for adequacy, and then because they're identified, then if they're all, there's a couple different categories that you can get some extra funding for, and but special ed is the category that you get the most funding for. But I don't think students, you don't usually get more than 6,000 for a student total with all of that. Yeah.
So to spend $73,000, then the DOE is liable for 80% of the cost above the 73. Okay. If you spend 10 times the per pupil, which is $215,199, the DOE is then liable for 100% of that overage. So the DOE will cover 80% between 3.5 times and 10 times. And then they are liable, they're supposed to cover the other 100% beyond that.
So what you're saying is that regardless of an out of district placement, the first roughly 75,000, a little bit less than that, is the taxpayers, the
Yes,
local taxpayers. Yeah. And then actually, if it were 215,000, all of it during that year would be local taxpayers, because you're going to get it back the
You
fall.
get it-
Yeah,
yeah.
you in theory get money back the next year. Yeah. You don't get it the same year.
per the letter from the DOE in November, we should only be planning on a 67% reimbursement instead of 80 for that in between the 73 to 215. Or yeah, because they level budgeted. They said, this is how much money we have. We're not giving you any more. That means that you now just get 67% instead of the 80 that we're supposed to get for full funding. And then beyond that, the 215 and beyond, getting the full amount back from that, we're really expecting about 67 to 70% back. So what are these costs? How do we come up with $73,000 for a student? In theory, you can have an in-district student that gets lots and lots and lots of services, a one-on-one, transportation, all sorts of things, and you can get to, when you figure out all of those costs, up to about the 73. It's not very often that an in-district student costs that much. Most of the time, these are out-of-district students. So this is tuition, all of their services, and transportation costs. If they're residentially placed, then it's all of those costs. We have a number of students that hit the 3.5 and more, and we have just a couple of students that hit the 10 times over. And those are typically residentially placed students.
My understanding is that Drummond and Woodson, which is a legal firm, gave an update on where some of that money was going rather than coming our way for these learners. Am I correct that?
I don't know if it was I don't know that Drummond and Woodson is, but I definitely heard from a superintendent that it looks like this money's going to EFAs.
Yeah, the educational, well, because the commissioner said that
If you do that, then you don't need to have a
then you
different
don't need
place
to,
students.
yeah.
Or you don't need special ed because they can just choose where they want to go. But we're talking about students that aren't coming to our school to begin with.
Yeah.
Because their needs are substantial. The average cost of an out-of-district placement is anywhere from an $80,000 to $150,000. And the average cost of transporting a student is $50,000 on top of that.
The next slide goes into that in a little more detail, which is great.
Yep. So your day in residential, 90 to 500. Sometimes we place due to due to the severity of their disability, and sometimes we have to place due to a lack of staffing or programming. If a student absolutely requires a social, emotional, therapeutic, a one-on-one, and I can't find another one-on-one, then I have to find somewhere else they can go to school. Charter schools, we have 2. We already talked about how much it costs to do the evaluations. We pay for the specially designed instruction, regardless of whether or not they have certified special educators providing them, and para supports. Right now, our related services are being provided through a contracted service or through our own related service providers doing it virtually. And charter schools are parentally placed, so they're parents' choice. Transportation, our costs go up yearly. When they can't fill drivers or they don't have enough vans for us, then we have to contract. So right now, I think our daily run is $270 a day. And if I contract with somebody, it's closer to $600 a day. So again, staffing, even at the bus company, becomes a significant issue for us. And then the staffing. I did want to share that more and more, I'm finding I'm getting a lot more reaches out on contracted services for special ed teachers, which was unheard of 3 years ago. But what happens when you have to contract a special ed teacher is they only work 40 hours a week. And this is not a 40-hour-a-week job. Teaching is not a 40-hour-a-week job, and special ed is definitely not. They cannot do any physical intervention. That includes activities of daily living like toileting and changing, moving kids in and out of wheelchairs. They can do none of that. They can do very limited supervisory roles with paras. So I'm the special ed teacher. I need the paras to do these things. They have very limited scope of what they're allowed to do. All of those things have been taken off their plates through contracted companies. So if I can't find teachers and I go to a contracted company, my hands are tied in a whole bunch of different ways because the stuff that needs to get done. What that tells me is those intensive programs that require toileting, physical interventions, every student in the program has a one-on-one. They all have highly modified programs. Are really, really, really impossible to fill because they're really, really hard jobs that are substantial. And so people are going to contracted companies because then they don't have to do that.
I didn't realize that under the charter school that we paid for paras to work at the charter schools. Do we have any?
Paras at charter schools?
Are we paying for any of our staff to work at a charter school?
We don't pay our staff to work at charter schools right now. Right now, the charter schools hire paras and we pay so if a student needs academic support in math for 40 minutes a day, then we pay that 40 minutes a day to that para. If a student has a one-on-one, then we pay the hourly rate for the one-on-one. Whomever they hire and however they train. Mhm. I guess this is my last slide, and these are just things for you to be aware of. Currently, we have a fairly intense pocket of learners at the middle elementary level. So that's our intensive learning center, our ILC, the difficult one to fill. There are more intensive students in that group than we have at the middle and high school. So as they get older, being mindful of then, do we have enough staff moving forward? Preschool referrals indicate to us that there's another intense pocket coming. To have 16 referrals, 13 of them go to evaluation and 13 found eligible, and many of them are substantial needs. There's another pocket of intense needs coming. Somebody asked, do we know why? I have no idea, but these things happen. We should be mindful of our self-contained social emotional classroom at the middle and high school level, what that might need to look like going forward. There is new legislation working on charter schools and getting site-based certifications, allowing their staff to be certified. So in order for you to get a site-based certification, so I'm not a special, I want to teach special ed, but I don't have a certification. We can hire them here and they can get a statement of eligibility because we're a public school that has the credentials to do that. Charter schools are not, so they've not been given the credentials, so therefore they can't hire people then get a site-based certification. They're working on allowing that to happen as long as they get a mentor in a public school setting. That would be super great because right now there's charter schools who have no special ed teachers, but they're providing special ed services, which is not in keeping with the rules that then I'm supposed to follow as the LEA, but the parents have placed. So we come to this gray area of making sure that parents, that The students are getting what they need and we're following, we get really, really creative. So this is an exciting thing that maybe they'll get more certified teachers in charter schools. And then again, more and more of the case managers are being, are coming through as contracted people. And the other piece that I didn't put in the slides, but I thought of as I was sitting here, is we heard a lot through the budget season about our budget and why we have so many paras and why our budget is so high. And so we will be spending some of our time this summer looking at our process for how we determine whether or not a student qualifies for a para, what that looks like and how much, and making a really concrete plan of this. You need to meet this criteria to have para support and what that looks like. We will then share that also with our charter schools. We need the data to support before we pay for a para. So that's another piece of the work that we hear, and we're going to try to figure out how do we do this better. Is there a way we can have less paras and still meet our students and get them what they need? And I just want to say that we inspire, engage, empower all learners to thrive. And that's our role, is to help support the we and the all. Everybody's entitled to an education. Everyone. And everyone's entitled to an education that best meets their needs to best meet their life. What questions do you have for me?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, it's very helpful for me personally to understand that. I think I know a lot of it, but just seeing the numbers, I think, and understanding the funding piece of it is helpful. I would guess that if we were to talk to the special education director for student services director for many surrounding districts, they face similar challenge, different, every district is unique, but similar challenges, certainly to do with funding and all these other pressures that are unique to this time. And I've heard talk and probably read in the paper about maybe options, as we're looking at these increasing budgets and lowered revenues to, regionalize things like that. Or those things where, theoretically, would that be beneficial, or are these services kind of so specific that that's?
No, I think totally it could be dependent. So interestingly, this week, I had a neighboring school district came to our district to look at our intensive needs program at our high school level, because they don't have enough students to support a program, but they have a student that needs a program. Can we provide that? And then that would be they would tuition in. That would be a regionalizing. It would depend. Like right now, I couldn't take a single additional student in K-5 because we are full. And that's a big pocket of intensive kiddos. But then we have less of a pocket in a couple other places. And instead of out of district placing, because we only have one, could we regionalize? Potentially. Interestingly, we also got an email, a referral from a Massachusetts school district wanting to say, does your school district have something to provide for our kiddo that we're looking for a placement for? So I think that that's happening more and more, that people are looking for other public schools too, that will take students or have programming for students. Regionalizing may help, but then you're transporting your most significant kiddos far. It's the superintendent from the district that came in and saw us this week, and I have been in communication, and I think Ruben has as well. And I think that that door is very open for further conversation.
You had mentioned a couple of times training this summer and fall for the staff for the compliance. Is any of that already funded? Is that something that you guys are going to need to be looking at funding for?
Yep, all of those, there's no funding provided. Here's your compliance things. Here's the things you need to do. There's no funding. So what do we look at those first few days of before school starts? How much can we get done in there? What does that look like? So over the summer, we'll definitely be trying to build our plans. And then how do we roll out all of the training that's needed.
This was incredibly helpful, and I'm really, really pleased that you were able to put this together, and thank you for this time that you shared with us. Do we have more questions or?
Just thank you. I can't imagine, and I truly appreciate what you and your team is doing. It's incredible.
Generally, people in special education love their jobs. We come to work because we love it and we love what we do, and there's a reason we do what we do. But it's not as black and white as looking at a budget. It just isn't. If it was possible to cut things out, we would. I think our compliance monitoring indicates what happens when you don't have enough support in the places that you should.
Going forward, I think this was a saturating amount of information. It's wild what you juggle. And it's amazing what your staff did. Thank you so much for your leadership with that.
It's also just the surface. It is.
Like,
It is the
what
surface.
exactly do you want me to share with you? Because I could talk for 16 days about what we do.
So that segues to my comment now. I just, as we are, digesting this, I think all of us probably will have questions. As the community hears this and digests as well. So I'd like to remind the board, to please direct all questions to Ruben directly, not to Jen as well, just to Ruben. And he will disseminate and find the people to answer these questions, because I think that this does bring up, as we are getting into budget season, having to do with this assessments coming, I think we are gonna more and more be thinking, what avenues do we have? What do these things mean? And so let's direct our stuff to Ruben and yeah, let's make sure we're learning everything we possibly can before budget season as this moves forward. Thank you so much, Jen. Any other?
No, I think the only other thing that is a constant thing as far as staffing, and I know that we've probably been in meetings here and other things, is how to solve that. I don't think. Obviously, we don't have that answer, but.
Do you think that we're planning to do another job fair? I don't remember when we decided to do that. We have had great success and gotten some really fabulous paras through the job fair process. We haven't had as great success for teachers. Teachers don't typically look for a sign on the side of the road and go, hey, that sounds like something I should do. But paras, we've had really, and like some of our greatest surprise hires have come in through job fair. So we'll try that again. I think we decided in June, but maybe we decided we're going to do it in July. I don't really remember, but we are going to do a job fair.
Yeah, I think we were talking about actually doing one sooner because we're gonna couple that with custodians and target that group. But
then the custodians
But
just
we
came
had
out of the
like
woodwork.
16 to 18 applicants, yeah, within a day or two was would suggest that we didn't need to do that.
Potentially, we could talk to them about being paras. Anybody we don't
Potentially,
hire as a
yeah.
custodian.
That is true.
Please.
Maybe they want to work at a school because they want to be around kids.
Mhm.
Maybe they want to work at a school because they want to clean
After kids.
after kids. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to the consent
Thank you,
agenda.
Jen.
Thank you so much, Jen, for this. This was incredible. As there's no changes to the consent agenda, I would like to, it has manifests for costs that includes the payroll costs. The budget transfer, would you mind, Ruben, telling us about the electricity shortfalls budget transfer?
Well, I can say that we have moved money around into from facilities. When I say we, Carrie really has grabbed over the last several months all of the facilities finance work and just started to make sure that everything was paid up to date. they were behind on all of the the electricity, the heating, let's see, what else was it? There was one other item there. But we're all caught up now, but in order to do that, like electricity, at one point there could have been a transfer out of those lines to be able to pay for other things. And so this would be putting money back into those lines to pay for electricity, the electric bills and so forth that we needed to pay. I don't have a whole lot more information on that.
No, that's answered quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, well, yeah, see, there you go. So
Did we
from
under-
biomass, from some of the salaries of the buildings, but all from facilities lines. So taking money from some facilities areas into other facilities areas. I guess salaries, athletics, there was some money taken out of there too.
Did we under budget for electricity, or
I think-
did we spend more than we
Hmm.
thought we were going to?
I think we may have under budgeted for electricity. I do think that's the case, but I also think that in some cases, and I can't speak for 100%, but just, pure transparency, I believe that there were some transfers made from some lines, thinking that, oh, this is what we were going to be good in an area, and then,
We weren't.
put it in, and then when Carrie, took over all the books and everything like that, found that, well, we need to make sure things are all evened out. So that's the best way of putting it. But we're in pretty good shape with all of our funding of our bills, and we're right on track.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
We have nominations for 2 custodians, lovely, and a stipendist. And we'll take a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Sandy. Second,
Second.
thank you, Chris. Any more discussion on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? Okay, passes, what are we, 6-0-0? 5-0-0,
Five.
sorry, Jen, I included you on that. 5-0-0. All right. Take a motion to accept the minutes for the 5/19/2025 non-public meeting. That's first.
Yep, all 7 were there.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I move we accept the minutes for May 19th, the non-public meeting as presented.
Thank you, Sandra. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Take a motion for the minutes for the 5/19/2025 regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 5/19/2025 public meeting.
Thank you, Chris. There's a second.
Second.
Thank you, Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Vote passes 5-0-0. Action items, School of Excellence Award banner. I don't know.
Yeah, so if, from the last meeting, we had, Susan came and presented. Christine and I kind of took the action to follow up with the group. I know Christine's been working, who's not here tonight, has been working on getting some estimates. I spent some time talking to Ali Vitello, another member of that group, to get some more details on what they were thinking, I guess, because, banner, I guess in my mind, I was picturing one thing, a banner, but they were thinking of possibly a couple larger banners to hang maybe at some significant place in both towns, for a period of time, and then maybe they could be, displayed at the school after that. Nothing, major. We have a couple of price estimates here for like what this would cost. They're still waiting on a couple estimates from local suppliers, but these amount to like 3 something. So I'd say probably on the high end, I'm thinking like $500. So we're still looking, I guess, at finalizing the estimates and getting a design for that. So I think that's the latest there.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Was there any thought around getting banners? Like if you were to go over to Keene State, and look and go around their campus, they would have their banners and it might look different. They might even have the same message on it, but have different ones
Right.
on their lampposts.
Yeah, we had talked about that too. That's kind of what I thought they were talking about.
And we had
So-
done that before with, during COVID,
Right, right.
with students who are graduating, having different types of signage like that.
Yeah, I think, and that's something that I brought, because that's what I pictured.
Yeah.
I guess maybe like.
It's a
along
little ta-
here
it's
in front of the
tasteful.
school. So I think, nothing final. I think
Okay.
that they're gonna look into that, kind of present all the options, but, I don't have anything final right now. I'm just communicating that we are trying to move forward. I think what would be best, and I think I agree with them on this, is that kind of be sooner rather than later, right? And I'm gonna be there for the start of the school year. I
Yeah.
think would be nice, and, possibly for some events, a lot of people come up here during the summer and during the fall. So obviously, when we just talk about budget, but the idea would be to be very conservative with what we spend, but I do think it's important to recognize, the accomplishment, getting back to what Jaden was talking about. There's certainly, many voices out there have a lot of things to say about the school. This is a legitimate, award that we have and that we should be proud of. And I don't think we should hide that in any way. And I think, I commend the team that did it. So this is a request from the community here. So
One of the conversations was to make sure that there were displays in both towns that are served. Similar to conversations we had years ago when I think the marching band was only marching in the Jaffrey parades. And so making sure that it was not, we were doing both. And so the reason, if I look around the common, I think down in Ringe, I noticed, I believe, lamp posts that had,
for like veterans.
that had those hooks
Yep.
on them. So they were ready. And I know we have them here in Jaffrey. So,
Yeah, I think those are all good options, and I hope we can get something done,
and they're centralized.
early this summer.
Yep.
But still more to come there, because I think we have the cost, the design, and, agreements
Yeah,
with the town. But
Yep. Sure.
just wanted to bring it up, and, we could have more information. We'll have more information for the next meeting.
Thinking about sponsors.
That would be great. Yes.
And thank you, just as a little side, thank you for the reminder of Memorial Day. The Covenant Band did a phenomenal job at both Jaffrey and the Ringe parades. They were just troopers. It was beautiful. It's such a respectful job. They were fantastic. That was really, really great to hear them for both of those parades. That was a full day. It must have been exhausting. Well done, guys. Next, we have a request to waive facility fees for Ringe Recreation Department basketball camp to be at the RMS Gym, August 4th through August 8th, 2025. We'll take a motion for that request.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Charlie. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, and abstain. Okay, we'll pass this 5-0-0. Discussion items, let's go right to that particular discussion item of the request to waive facility fees. Reminds us of the MOU that's still in limbo just yet. Chris had talked about going back to the policy committee, which is this Thursday, and I would definitely like to do that. There's some things in looking at the full policy that I think we can really fine tune before going further with the MOU. So I'd like to have that brought to the policy committee, and that meeting is this Thursday at 4 o'clock. And I'll add that to the agenda for that. So, okay.
And just related to this item right here, the Pratt gymnasium, as well as the Jaffrey Grade School Gymnasium will have their floors dealt with, cleaned and everything and covered in July, and then RMS will have theirs done right after this event right here. So after our Ringe Recreation Department does their week-long event in the early August, the following week, because you need a week of it not to be touched. We were able to make sure that we could get that week scheduled, so that this was made possible and we could do it afterwards. And then, of course, right after that, people come back into the building.
And with if I could just formally request of you, Ruben, if we could have any, for that policy meeting, just email me, how many groups, have been charged or were hoping to be charged in the 2 years, because we created the policy 2 years ago, June. And I guess I'd like to get an idea for our policy meeting, how many people actually have been charged, how many people have paid, and, the group breakdown for that. Thank you. The other piece for discussion involves the school funding fairness project. There's two pieces there. One is that this coming June 4th on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, Conval High School's Lucy Herland Theater is going to be having a conversation, there's the word, on school funding and property taxes in the Conval School District. And they will explore how the current system impacts your community and what to be done to fix it. This is being sponsored by the Fair Funding New Hampshire group that came to us that we approved, participating in. I am intending to go to that and would invite anybody, if you want to go, just email me and I don't know if you got the email on it, but if you didn't email me, I'll send it to you. I just want to hear the conversation. The second piece with that is, that they're looking at hopefully maybe September having a meeting with our community and wanted to talk, just kind of have that on your radar, Ruben, to kind of look at the schedule.
Yep.
September, October, I think we kind of all said fall is when we would need that to happen. Probably not before that.
Yep.
And the third piece with that is I was invited to be part of a group that is going to pursue a meeting with Governor Ayotte to discuss this. They're hoping that the school funding, the Fair Funding New Hampshire group would like a group of school board chairs to go and sit with the governor. And so if that's something that you guys would approve, I'd be happy to go to that and be part of that conversation. That would take a motion from you guys to approve that, though. I'm not gonna talk without you guys. That's cool.
Motion now?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. All right, Charlie first.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandy. Any more discussion on that? Okay, good. I'll let you know when that happens, and get your input on what would be good to get your voice on. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Okay. We are now on to public comments, the second session of that. And again, we have empty seats here, but very open to the community input, especially after Dr. Horn's incredible presentation. So please, public on view, you're welcome to speak. Okay. They were stunned into silence by you.
I too am stunned.
All right, then, everybody knows where to find the calendar. We're about to get into the hot and heavy season for all of our award ceremonies and graduations and all kinds of things. Anybody need knowledge of where to go to find all the information for where to be and when? We're all good? Cool. Then, our meeting for June 16th is going to be at 7 p.m. due to the 8th grade graduation and ceremony. Okay, we won't have a non-public before that. Should we need a non-public at that time, we'll do it after the session. Okay. All right.
I have two other items for board matters, which are just information, if that's okay.
Yes.
On that same day, 6/16, and I have a digital invitation that I can send, but we're going to have in the morning a dedication a dedication of the amphitheater over for Susan Shaw Sarles for her years of dedication as a principal. Actually, she was an educator here before she was principal, 30 years here actually, but 25 years of being a principal over at the Jaffrey Grade School. And so you'll get more information on that. I just wanted to let you know that that was the case. If I think it's at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'll send out the information. It's in the first half of the day. So it's not in the evening. And then it will be, half an hour, probably long. There will be a plaque, there will be, presentation. It's being fenced in right now in the whole area, and it's all been leveled and being finalized, the structure itself. So that's important. Then equally as important is if you know individuals who should be invited to that, who have worked with Susan, and I certainly know some, but if you have some specific people that you'd like me to send an invitation to, please let me know. And then the another item is that JRSSA, Jaffrey Range Support Staff Association, has reached out to me to reach out to you regarding negotiations. This coming year is the last year of their contract, the 3 years. And so they would be interested in setting up time for a first meeting, and they are prepared if you would like to start meeting in the summertime so that the fall is not so busy. We have not tended to meet in the summertime for this, but it may be good to do before the all other schools get really busy, and we get stuck with difficult time trying to find all the days that we need to negotiate, because all these attorneys, or the NEA attorney anyway, needs to be able to be in so many places, all the time at the same time. Just look at something real fast. Okay. And I got a text indicating that there was an individual who would like to have public comment. And so if you, the other two things were that I just want to let you know, and you can look for her name would be Allison. If
before,
There's just no handout, like allowed.
okay, well, do you want that to happen now, or do you?
in 1 second.
Yeah, thank you.
So with the negotiations piece of it, let's not, please, board, be thinking about if you would like to be participating in that.
Yep.
We won't make a decision until we're together again as a full board.
Yep.
About who.
How many meetings are there, and
We can, I was on it last time, so I can definitely give you that, Yeah. that's kind of
Probably
okay.
a handful. Probably a handful.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
5 to 6 usually.
We'll wait till the full board comes together. All right, is the board amenable to opening up public comments at another time? All right, go ahead. Hi, Allison.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Allison Marr from Ringe, New Hampshire. It's nothing thrilling, but I just wanted to say that the last 2 school board meetings, being able to listen to David Dustin last time about the award and the report that was received in conjunction with that, and then tonight's presentation from Dr. Horn was, both of them were so informative. And I really, really hope that other members of the public were listening and appreciated them, because I think both of them were eye-opening in very different ways. And I really appreciate the time that both David Dustin and Jen Horn put into both of those presentations. And thank you for allowing them the time to be able to do that outside of the very hectic budget season, when sometimes the real meat of what they're sharing can get overlooked.
Thank you, Allison. That's really good to hear. We are going to find a way to post these online outside of the school board meeting, so that there are segments, because the food service was an incredible one to hear too. And we are going to be hearing from the athletics and co-curriculars as well this summer. So yeah, I'm really glad that we have these info sessions. All right, we'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you, guys.